Hello guys, welcome back, and today we're going to introduce to you the movie Pinocchio. It's about Pinocchio, a wooden boy whose nose grows longer when he tells lies. The only one who can help him are the woodpeckers.
It's M to the B, 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 bang.
The story begins in a small village surrounded by thick fog and snow. There is an abandoned man who is the heir of a noble family. He is so poor that his house has nothing but 4 walls and resorts to eating sawdust. He is a carpenter. One day he tells the store owner that this table and this chair needs to be fixed, and the wooden door too. The owner can't stand it anymore. He gives the man a bowl of thin gruel and bread and begs him to stay quiet. A puppet team comes to the village for the show. The man is attracted by the puppets. He notices one puppet that is different from the others. It would be the brightest star on the show. He even gives it a name, which is Pinocchio. There's another carpenter that encounters a strange thing. A wooden log keeps moving towards him, and that scares him. The man goes to the carpenter to ask for a log to make a puppet. The carpenter gives the man the crazy log for free. He doesn't want to keep it for even a second. That night, the man carves a puppet, just like how God created humans. But suddenly, he hears a heartbeat sound from the chest of the puppet. What's the thing that makes the sound? Thump thump means that only you can wake me up. He talks to the puppet. Pinocchio, call me father. You said it, let's bring it on. The puppet replies, Father. That causes the man to be frightened. Pinocchio asks for some milk. The man is so excited that he runs out and makes an announcement to the world. He can give birth to a son himself. He uses some red cloth to make Pinocchio an outfit. As soon as the boy is created, he can run and jump. The father can't catch him, so he gets lost over the fields. Pinocchio is chased by a dog, so he rushes back home and sits next to the fireplace to heat. On the roof, a cricket shows up and warns him. If the boy doesn't obey his parents, he won't have a good life. Look at you, no schooling. All you do is cause trouble for your father. Pinocchio, without a word, hits the cricket with a mallet. I dare you to speak the truth out loud again. When the night comes, the father returns home, knocking at the door. But Pinocchio put his feet in the fireplace, and the fire caught them. Consequently, his feet gets burnt off. The father has to climb in through the window to save his son. He's afraid that his son will leave him, so he doesn't want to fix his feet now. Pinocchio promises that he will be a good son. The father is moved, so he makes Pinocchio new feet. The next day, the father takes 2 of his important heirlooms that his ancestors left. He sells them so that he can have some money for his son to go to school. The father is so excited when he walks Pinocchio to the school, but on the way the son is distracted by a circus. As soon as the father leaves his school, Pinocchio runs back to the circus. The ticket seller tells him that he can only go inside if he has a ticket. Pinocchio sells his books to the owner to get the ticket. There are so many children inside. Pinocchio quickly makes new friends. The puppets invite him to go on the stage. As fellows, he soon rushes to them and hugs them. The long-bearded owner decides to take the boy to other villages to perform. The father keeps waiting for his son to come home, but eventually he waits in loneliness. His son has gone with other people. The father puts on his cardigan and promises, however far he must go, he will get his son back. The long-bearded owner has the crew stop on the way to eat grilled lamb. Since it takes too long for the meat to cook, he takes Pinocchio to burn. His heart beats non-stop. Seems like it's about to jump out. He keeps begging. He doesn't want to say goodbye to his poor father. The owner is touched by what Pinocchio says. He frees him and even offers him 5 pennies. He tells Pinocchio to find his father and to be obedient to him. Don't hurt him and try to grow up to protect him. On the way back, Pinocchio feels so happy. The cat and the fox are catching fish in the pond, and they hear Pinocchio say that he wants to give his father 5 pennies. They immediately run next to him. They say he just needs to bury the gold pennies in a secret place, then water and fertilize them. Later, it will bring an enormous amount of gold. Thinking this might change his father's life, Pinocchio is an honest and trustworthy boy. He takes out a penny and asks the two animals to eat it. In his dream, he truly sees the golden tree. He rides on the fox and the cat collecting the gold. What a fantasy! But until he wakes up, he knows that the cat and the fox soon left him. The owner wakes him up and shuts him away. Pinocchio continues on his journey, and his friend, Jiminy Cricket, shows up again. He advises Pinocchio to go home and says that the cat and the fox are deceivers. Those kids who walk alone on their road will regret it one day. But Pinocchio ignores this and keeps moving ahead. The cat and the fox pretend to be burglars to kidnap Pinocchio. He falls continuously on his way. He runs to an abandoned villa and knocks at the door, but the little fairy doesn't help him. She waits until Pinocchio passes out, allowing the muggers to steal his gold and hang him from a tree. The second day, a masked driver comes and rescues this naughty boy. A snail steward greets him. It turns out he's the one that the little fairy sent to save Pinocchio. She even invited a doctor. Pinocchio's friend, Jiminy Cricket, appears. He advises Pinocchio to go back home as soon as possible. When walking out the door, he falls down because of the slime from the snail. Pinocchio insists on not taking the medicine. The little fairy has a coffin brought to him. Pinocchio is so scared. He has to take the medicine and start to recover. The little fairy asks him about what he's been through. Pinocchio means to tell her lies. He doesn't want others to know about his bad deeds, but the more he lies, the longer his nose grows. After that, woodpeckers come to help, so that his nose can go back to the original shape. The little fairy and Pinocchio listen to Snail Steward's story. They love their time there, but in the end they have to say goodbye. Pinocchio wants to find his father. On his way, he meets the cat and the fox again. They are chit-chatting. Pinocchio gets upset because they deceived him. He buries the pennies underneath the ground, but the two jerks have stole the 4 pennies and ran away. It was at this moment Pinocchio knows he was deceived again. He finds the monkey judge to ask for justice. When the monkey judge knows he is the victim, he not only doesn't help him, but he orders him to be locked up. Pinocchio confesses all the bad things that he has done. This time, Judge Monkey releases him. Pinocchio walks alone for days. Finally, he sees a familiar village, but the neighbor tells him that his father has been searching for him. However far Pinocchio is, his father has to find him. Then, Pinocchio, despite the heavy rain, traverses the ocean to find his father. The result is he hits another coast. When he wakes up, he knows that the little fairy saves him once again. But this time, the little fairy is all grown. She doesn't know what happened to his father, so she tells him as long as he is good enough, behaves nicely and studies hard, one day he'll become a real boy. The next day, Pinocchio starts to study hard, but this doesn't last long. While he is with his classmates, one student crams a frog into the teacher's pants and makes friends with Pinocchio. The two children steal everything from everywhere. The troublemaker is known for his crimes. He has numerous scars on his forehead. The fairy knows that Pinocchio is lying. She refuses to see him, so he has to sleep outside the house. The snail steward tries to make excuses for him, and the fairy forgives him. The troublemaker drops out of school. Pinocchio finds himself no joy. He stays with the fairy all the time. The fairy teaches him some magic to trick the snail steward. With tricks that the fairy taught him, Pinocchio shows his talent for math. The first 100 magic tricks he remembers without the fairy having to repeat. He starts performing well at school. He starts to make cakes with meat filling. He will be a diligent man in the future. The little fairy compliments him for behaving nicely. So from tomorrow, he doesn't have to be a puppet anymore. He can become a real boy. Pinocchio is so happy that he feels like he can fly. At that time, the troublemaker tells Pinocchio he wants to live in the toy world and enjoy the happiness it brings. Pinocchio asks him whether he is telling the truth or not. The troublemaker says that he wants it. In the evening, the troublemaker is sitting on the carriage. The owner and the children are with him too. Be quick, we don't have time. Pinocchio can't resist the temptation. He joins the children to the toy city. He spends a whole day there. There is nothing called pain or sadness at this place. But on the second day, the scariest thing happens. The troublemakers and Pinocchio's ears turn into donkey ears. They even have donkey legs, and finally, they become donkeys. They can't find a free meal in this world. The children here are turned into donkeys by the owner, who sells them for money. A circus buys Pinocchio. His first performance is jumping through a ring of fire. The fairy sits in the audience's place, showing her a disappointed face. My poor Pinocchio, this is just the beginning. As Pinocchio fails, he is trapped and put deep into the ocean. When he nearly dies, the fairy sends a school of fish to save him. She turns him into his original appearance. Finally, he understands the dangers of this world. Life is limited. Only his father's love is endless. He just wants to quickly find his father, so he keeps swimming alone. Then, a big fish swallows him. Inside its stomach, he meets a pessimistic tuna named Callie. He'd rather stay here than getting cooked, but Pinocchio doesn't give up. He wants to escape this place and find his father. He follows where the light touches. He doesn't expect that his father's here too. When his father came to find you at sea, he was swallowed by this fish. He got used to living here, so he advises his son to stay. But with the growing mind of his son, he insists on leaving this place. When the fish is sleeping, the father and his son sneak out of there. The father can't swim. Therefore, Pinocchio has to help him. But he can't stay for too long. Seems like Callie the tuna feels the courage, so it escapes too. It brings the two to reach the coast safe and sound. Walking makes them exhausted. They stop at a house on the road. Pinocchio asks for the goat milk of the farmer. His father will die from starvation. The farmer suggests he works to earn the money to buy milk. So Pinocchio works at the farm in the morning. In the evening he tries to study. The cunning cat and the fox show up again, but this time the 3-year-old Pinocchio is dead. He won't be fooled. He's now a grown man living with his father. In the ending scene, the fairy suddenly appears. She gives him a kind heart. Before forgiving all of his mistakes, she tells him that only those who can say what's right and wrong can have a happy future. Pinocchio hugs the fairy until he wakes up again. He's no longer a wooden boy. He's an ordinary boy. He dashes to his father and embraces him. This fictional movie is Pinocchio. Each child that makes mistakes has his own angel protecting them from the dark. But in the real world, perhaps there are no angels. Our family's love is the unconditional love that protects us.
Like a Hellcat.